who provide for low-income people. And we just happened to be there.
So it wasn't because of age?
Well, no, I mean, I qualify age. It's over 65. I'm 67.
Wow.
But they apparently are on a priority. You know, the other places that we tried were all booked up, and they didn't know when they were going to get vaccine. Have you tried yet, Mike?
The veterinarians were up high on the list, and then they moved them back a little bit. So the guy I work with, he's a year older than I am, so he got one over in Kingston Hospital, but they haven't made it a priority yet. So I'm sort of waiting.
Well, I've been having lots over the last 9 months or so, and I don't know if I had COVID early on before we knew. And, you know, some people have long-term effects. Well, I haven't been able to breathe very well for like 9 months. And so whether I've had it or not, I wasn't looking forward to having it again, because I don't think I'd fare well with a disease that affects your breathing.
Yeah, I know my wife is nervous about it. She's not going out much.
Yeah, no, we're being careful. Just see people outside. That's basically it.
Well, once you get the two, you ought to be in a good position then.
Well, hopefully.
Yeah.
Of course, now they don't know what the new mutations are gonna do with the current vaccines.
Yeah, there's still a lot that isn't known about it.
Mm-hmm.
I see Steve is there. Who are we missing?
Yeah, I'm not in control, so I don't know.
Well, is Carl coming? Does anyone know? If not, I don't think we're missing anyone.
Yeah, Carl told me he was coming. He was actually going to come down here, Trish, but I just texted him to say, hey, are you on your way? But
Amanda was going to be there too.
Amanda's here.
She's here. Yep.
I'm here.
I don't know if any members of the public are coming. They have the info if they choose to come.
Carl's on his way, Trish.
Okay.
He said if we need to go ahead and get started, go for it, because we've got enough otherwise.
Yeah, well, so I don't know. I haven't talked with anybody, particularly Mike, ahead of this, but Mike owns the adjoining property. I wonder, Mike, if it would be better for you to not vote and let Amanda vote.
Although I sold my half of it.
Oh, you did? Okay.
I don't own it anymore. I went to look tonight and I could see that the back part of the left-hand project was somewhat close to the line. I'm not sure, but it's certainly, they would be the ones that could be concerned. I think Doug still owns half the real estate.
Yeah.
Caroline owns the other half.
All right. I didn't realize that you had sold. Okay.
Yeah,
well, you should.
I'm semi-retired.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
You should stay then, and that makes Amanda the alternate, I believe. Trish, can you set us where we can all see each other?
I can see you, Scott. You're in the big center.
Oh, I can do that.
Yeah,
everyone else is up in a small tile on the top.
Go to view and hit gallery view. If you're on your iPhone, you might not be able to see everyone at once. You might have to swipe.
Dean to the rescue.
Maybe we'll see. Oh wait.
Hand him something to drink. That could help.
Yeah, it's true. It may just be the phone that.
All right. Well, maybe I should come in with the.
Maybe you should.
Yeah. Because I sort of need to see everybody.
Yeah, it'd be nice to see people's faces.
All right, I'm gonna leave off of the iPhone and come back on with iPad so I can see everybody.
Okay.
Just talk among ourselves.
Yep, I'll be right with you.
So then, you want to send me the link? Send the link to my email and I'll set you up.
Well, but then I'd have to know how to do that.
Send me the email
Oh,
that
okay.
you got.
All right, I think I'm finally set. And I believe that everybody is here. Is that correct?
Where?
Yes, Carl is
Um,
here.
I'm here.
All right,
Carl.
and it says 7:34, so we will open our meeting officially. I think that we should go ahead so that we don't forget and go ahead and approve the minutes, which I have. I'm going to step out of the screen 1 second and grab it. So we have the minutes from our last meeting, December 29th. I had one comment on page 3 that says, well, it was something about fair trade. Sorry, folks. I thought I had this all marked. Ooh. Well, I'm not seeing it.
Should we pass the minutes for now? And we can always go back to it if you find it.
71.
Right.
And
Yep.
amend. So
Sure.
I move that we pass the minutes as they've been submitted.
All right, we have a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
All right, all in favor will say aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? I hear none. So we don't have any members of the public. I think that, Trish, if you would just confirm for the record that it got published in the paper and that the notices went to the neighbors.
Yes, and
Okay,
it was on the town website and our Facebook page.
okay. So then we're back to the application, and unfortunately, I don't know, I'm probably not the only one, but I did spend some time prepping for the meeting, and actually, Drew, this was a question for you. When I went back through the supplementary regulations, I found that there was an additional front yard setback.
I didn't realize that.
And so with that, it's I think it was it 30 or 35? 35 feet, wasn't it? It's in section JJ, self-storage facility. In this updated zoning book, it's on my page 136, if anybody else has that. In the very first thing, it says the minimum required front yard shall be 35 feet. So that creates a little more difficulty in that it's more than just a coverage variance. I mean, it's still an area variance. But now it's two. Now, the other thing that, again, in doing my prep, I realized that the businesses in our Main Street district are subject to site plan approval. And so whatever we would do needs to be coordinated with the planning board. I think that, again, Drew and I have spoken about this on other applications, but it's always sort of a chicken and egg thing. What do you do? And it seems like there's no point in going to the planning board and doing a site plan if you're not going to get the variance.
I agree.
And so we tend to do the variance first, but it does complicate things in that, yes, I think that the A-level decision would be, could we see our way to do that? But then whatever, and if that answer became yes, the applicant would then need to go to the planning board for site plan issues. And I think that, we would want to have approvals that sort of lined up with each other. And I know, Steve, that you asked last time if you wanted us to voice concerns about or to give you some guidance in terms of landscaping. I'm thinking that's an issue where the planning board in working with you on a site plan might take that responsibility. We might be involved if your neighbors had all shown up and said, oh man, that Stevie's doing something horrible. I don't want to look at it. And,
Right.
we want fences or, then we might have put in some general standard and said, yes, we want to see a solid hedge or a solid fence on this side or that side or whatever.
Mhm.
Being that we're not hearing anything from the neighbors, I'd be inclined to, certainly if any board member has suggestions, we could put that in, but we would maybe just put that as recommendations to the planning board when they worked with you on the site plan.
Understood. I believe I did that in the initial approvals with, I did the arborvitae and I did that retaining wall. When I did that in the back, I went for that, and that was,
Yeah.
I had the drainage in the plan back then as well. So.
Yep. So, Drew, I'm sort of looking for a little guidance with you. Do you agree that again, we would make the A-level decision and then it would have to go to the planning board for the site plan review and alteration, right?
I agree, yes.
Okay. So then we come down to, I know that I've given it some additional thought and hopefully all of you have too, in terms of both prepping for the meeting and just thinking about it and visiting the site over the last month. There were, I still, again, was in between in terms of when you go down through, we read through them last time and they're actually in the application, which again, excuse me, I just got to go grab it. It's right here.
Drew, can you hear me, Drew?
Yes,
I just wondered, what was the difference between the front of the building to the road as specified in the zoning and what is the variation that's proposed for the new addition to the building?
well, Steve and I had discussed, because I thought the original, just the zoning district itself requires a 25-foot setback. So that's what
Okay.
Steve was going to comply with. And now Scott said he looked in the supplementary and it's requiring 35.
Okay, so it's
So that's what the
a
variance
small, it's not a huge amount. And what
Yeah.
about on the sideline facing the vet hospital? The sort of very furthest east of the long addition? How far is that from the veterinary, from the property
15
line?
foot from the property line,
How many?
15.
Oh, okay, because the driveway is in between there, the driveway up to what used to be Dr. Brown's house. So it's a substantial distance from that driveway.
Well, again, it's 15 feet from the property line. I don't know
Yeah.
how close the old driveway to Doc Brown's house is.
Yeah,
If I had to bring both proposed, the addition and the other building back 10 feet from the road further, I would still be interested in doing it if I had to comply with that.
Yeah. Well, Steve, that comes down to, and again, this is something that, we've said this to you before. We always try to work with people, but we're bound by the law. And I think, Mike, you weren't with us last time, but do you have a copy of the application in front of you, Mike?
no, well, the only thing I did was go yesterday to town hall and look at it.
Okay.
And I
Well,
don't have a copy, but I
Yep.
did see that the two sections, and it was well marked out. I went by this
Mhm.
afternoon. So the front of, I could see where it was laid out, what the addition on the big square addition, and then the long thin addition or building that's on the veterinary side.
What you missed at the last meeting was us sort of re-educating ourselves what our criteria and responsibilities are. And with area variance, we're required, there are 5 things in it. I was complimenting Drew on, it's actually right in the application in itself. And it says that, so the 5 are that and again, listed right in the application, the granting of the variance will not produce an undesirable change in the character of the neighborhood
Right.
or the community, or be a detriment to nearby properties. That's 1. 2, can the desired result be achieved by some other means feasible for this applicant other than granting a variance? And the 3rd is the variance requested substantial? The 4th is, will the proposed variance have an adverse effect or impact on the physical or environmental conditions in the neighborhood or the zoning district? And 5 is the difficulty that you have with the requirements of the zoning law created by something you did. So is it a self-created hardship? So those are the 5 things that we have to comply with. The thing that we were working against, or that Steve is up against, is that the legislative body, which is the town board, in adopting the zoning, put a limit on the amount of impervious coverage. And it was 50%. I think that you're already at, you said you were at 56 and wanted to go to 62 or something like that.
Right.
Yeah. So that's what we were up against. And I think that the discussion was leading, well, let's see what the neighbors have to say. And I'm not hearing or seeing any.
Yeah.
And then if we were going to go against the legislature, is there some ameliorating factors that could be construed that it would sort of work for everybody, for the town and for Steve? And I got the general feeling that people were saying, well, perhaps for one thing, moving it a little closer to the road would in fact be beneficial in that we're trying to create more of a hamlet feel in the town and slow down traffic a little bit, and having buildings closer to the road does that. So that was, could you get to that number 4, where you're saying, will the proposed area variance have an adverse effect or impact? You could say, well, by doing some other things, maybe it actually has a beneficial impact. So those were I'm just trying to frame the discussion and the thoughts here. And I will add one more that I just discovered again today, that when I was kind of doing my homework and went out there, I realized that this property fronts on 2 highways, 2 roads. The
Yeah.
rear portion is on, I don't know what it's called, Wicks Lane back there, maybe?
Yeah.
So I would ask everybody to look, it's on the little area map. If you have his illustration, it shows you the layout of the lots, but there are 25 or 30 lots in the rear that have no walking access to the school or to town without going way the hell out of the way. And Steve, one of the thoughts that I had in terms of coming up with a way that we could justify that, no, this is not having a harmful effect, is to have a beneficial effect. Could we, on your western property line, have permission for people to walk from Wicks Drive out to 199? It didn't seem like it would affect your operation at all.
No, not at all. I keep that plastic chain up and I remove it for snow removal. And when I originally put the 2 rear buildings in, Mr. Harp, I think was a highway superintendent, he put a stop sign back there, and the town actually put that dry well back there at the end of the dead end where the water collected a little bit, where it meets my property line. So, and they would do the same when they plowed to there or whatever. We push it back. We worked with them, and the kids do walk through there all the time. Knock on wood, I haven't had any issues with anybody. I have security cameras on board, but I don't want it to look like Fort Knox either. So people do walk. I frown on anybody driving through there because it's a liability, but emergency vehicles could certainly get through there.
Yep.
Buildings that are
well, so again, when I saw that, Steve, you have to understand a little bit of my history. I was on the town's, sidewalk and trails committee, and we're always trying to help people be able to make the community more walkable or bikeable or whatever, and look for ways to do that. And I went, holy man, there's like 25 houses back there. Those people would have to walk all the way around on Birch Drive, or I forget the next street. And whereas if they could come down along the edge of your building, if the town had like a sidewalk easement 4 or 5 feet wide, where in the future, if the town wanted to, the town could put in a walkway there just to reserve that, then I would see that, us going against the zoning law would not be a detriment, but by getting, something for the town, it would actually be an improvement. And so I was thinking that maybe that would be a fair trade. And so again, I'm just one person and I'm dominating the conversation. I would like to open it up to others about whatever anybody else saw
Scott,
about this proposal.
Scott, that way to walk is certainly what everyone would use from Birch Drive if they were walking into town. They'd go up there and from 9 Partners, and they walk back through the area there where Steve has the units. That's always been kind of an unwritten right away that everyone has.
Well, but I guess what I'm saying is that I'd like to formalize it and, ask Steve.
Well, that sounds like a good idea.
Mhm.
Hey, Scott, Can I interrupt just for a second?
Sure.
Should you officially open the public hearing?
Oh, yeah. I suppose even though there's no public, yes. So with that being said, I guess we'll officially open the public hearing. And
Do you need a motion?
I don't think I need a motion. It's on the record as being open.
Okay.
Yeah.
And comments will be recorded of the individual members and anybody else that joins us in between. Until such time, I guess, as we close it, and then comments would be limited to the people that we recognize or open it up to, I guess, in terms of recording. So I would again ask other members in terms of things that they thought of or concerns that they may have had, and I probably will add, one or two more, but I don't want to control or take over all conversation here. I'd like to hear from others.
So Steve, you wanted to say something?
Sure, I just think that'd be a fine idea. I'd be open to any signage to help out back there to allow that so people knew there's an egress through there. Also, I know we brought up at the tail end of the last meeting, Scott, that about the drainage stuff. But I just wanted we didn't get to obviously have our group meeting there today, but the dry wells are on the map that I submitted, and I didn't even bring it up at the last meeting. I know it was one thing you'd brought up, but all the gutters, if you notice, are all tied in from each of the buildings, are tied into all those dry wells, and they are all clean. When I was out there Sunday staking it, I just wanted to point that out, that it was contained. The only minor water issue I ever get is in that front parking lot where the proposed building actually is right there. The grade, it's just from plowing and me not adding any fill there over the years. It's not blacktopped. I get a little bit of water with heavy rain. But that's all I want to bring up.
Others? Comments from others?
Okay, Scott, so I guess my only concern is I hear everything that you're saying about the egress and the walking and whatnot, but to me, that is all secondary. He is asking what Steve is asking for versus what we have the authority to investigate and potentially grant. I think that building in the front, I understand about the setback, but I think we have it within our power. I went over there today, I drove in, I drove out. I think bringing the building up to where he wants it, it doesn't affect getting in and out of the space. It would allow those 10 extra feet would give him what he needs. I don't think that if the public and this whole using this as, Doc, you live over there. You know that people use this area and whatnot. But it almost sounds like, well, if we make that official, then we're helping Steve get what he needs. And I think we're just missing the mark here. We have to decide this based on what he's asking for versus what I just think we're coming at it from the wrong angle. I know that it's over on the square footage, not by that much. It's not affecting the drainage, like you said. I think that front building for sure, the climate controlled, I'm totally on board with that. I can see the other building being an issue for some people. It wouldn't affect getting in and out of the space, but I just think we're missing the mark on this. I think we need to look at it. He answered those questions. We can justify why he needs these things. And if we need to take it to if he needs to take it to the planning board with all that other stuff, I'm willing tonight to vote on it. I would say he is entitled to those things. But I mean, we can talk it to death and it'll never go anywhere, but it's just a matter of, I think we're missing the mark if we're worried about, we're trying to get more business. He's trying to get more business. We're trying to get his needs met as well as stay within the zoning laws. I understand that, but he is a unique situation in that he's not using sewage. He's not using water, traditional stuff. So I stand by that. I don't know what anybody else's thoughts are.
No, I feel that we ought to give him the variance, and if he in turn made it a little clearer where people could walk through, that's only an added benefit.
Exactly,
But that would be his
the fact
choice
that
to do that,
the fact that
regardless
nobody
of what we
showed
vote
up
on.
exactly.
and that the vet hospital didn't come and have any issues,
Right,
I
there's
think it's-
nobody here, exactly, Doc, to
Right.
say they don't like any of this.
and the letters were sent to all the neighbors, and that would have included plenty of the neighbors in the back.
Yep.
On the south side there. So I think that everybody is not worried about the visual effects or anything else. So
Right.
I'm in favor of it.
Yeah, I just want to add that I think all of those things are true. The only concern I had is about the setbacks, setting a precedent for businesses not to have those setbacks. I'm okay with that here in this particular case, and I think we need to document it so that, you know, not anybody that has like an ugly industrial business can, like, you know, just like put that up against the main street in the Main Street hamlet. I think that was what the zoning was written to avoid. That's not the case here. In this case, it's you know, well maintained. It's really beautiful. In fact, having the building it out so that it is closer to the main street, I think makes it more hamlet-like, you know, and all the other things you've considered. The other thing, Scott, you talked about the part about the self-storage facilities. And one of those things says views of the storage facility from any public road shall be fully screened. I think that was written because of thinking about like the part that's in the back, you know, if there was some industrial like self-storage facing the road that was just like industrial and not like hamlet-like, then
Right.
that's what that would protect against. And that's not the case here. So I think if we just make that clear in, you know, in our discussion, as a reason for why we would grant this variance, because, you know, for all the reasons that you already stated, as well as that this is like Hamlet-like. It's, you know, he's a good neighbor. He's doing all these things that make it a good business and consistent with what the zoning was aiming for. I'm in favor of granting the variance too.
Mhm.
Excuse me, if I may, thank you. I just, did everyone see the rendering that the engineer did with the little facade on the front?
Beautiful thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Very
I
nice.
don't know if everyone
Mhm.
got that. Yeah, it just, you know, similar, it's gonna look similar than it does now, and I'm gonna plan on putting the same metal roof, the standing seam green metal roof on the front, on the larger building as the rest of them, so it matches.
So Hamlet-like an aesthetic.
Steve, didn't you also mention at the last meeting that if this were to go through as is, that you were talking about paving all the way to the main road?
Well, I considered that the other day when I was laying it out.
Mhm.
You know, originally when I bought the building, it was a horseshoe there in the front. And that's why my neighbor has those stanchions there, because the kids are all driving through there. When they leave school, none of the police are around, they're tearing through there. So,
And the parents.
Yeah,
and the parents, right, when it gets backed up. So he put them there. I didn't put them there. And I said, go ahead. I didn't mind. But
Yeah.
Long short of it is, I don't know if I want to, I would like to possibly pave that, and then I'll obviously have to deal with the DOT with a curb scenario, I guess, if I go down that road. I haven't looked at it, but I wouldn't want to add physical parking spaces. I would just want to tie in there to out to the road. So for plowing stuff. But I don't know if I would spring for that right away if I'm going to do this addition. So
I just noticed it today when I went over to see the area and I drove in there. I was just curious. I know we had some discussion about it last time and I couldn't remember what you said. That's all. Thanks.
yeah, and the proposed longer thin building there, I would have all the doors obviously not facing the vets building. It would be the same pitch on the roof line as the buildings in the rear, same colors, and I would think roughly 8 doors would face, I'm just looking at it while I'm talking to you, would face west, would face the climate controlled building. Same layout, so you know, it would tie in that way. I think you'd see less of the rear portion of the property too, with that being out towards the front. just wouldn't be able to see back there.
Mm.
So I have helped out the camera systems helped out the police department a few times in a couple of cases. So with people that
Yeah, I
were looking.
noticed the town police cars were in 2 of those shots.
I know.
Past.
The engineer got that. And they've got the code to get in the climate control building because the camera system's up in the attic, so they can access it. So they know. It works.
Gotcha.
Anyone else have comments or concerns that they would like to raise? Steve, I didn't know how, in terms of, again, aesthetics is always difficult. Your place is neat. I like the fact that, you have the peaked roof. I was going to suggest that rather than have the little shed cover over that front door, that you have another matching peaked roof
I could do
with a
that.
couple nice columns,
Mhm.
decorative columns there, just to dress up the front of the building, which would now be closer to the road.
Carry the same roof line as the rest of it.
Yep.
That'd be fine by me. That's easy in the design. That was just something the engineer did. He drew it up.
Yep. Is there anyone who is seeing that they have? I mean, the other thing is I guess I was not crazy about the side building, feeling that would be too visible from the road, because when you drove by, it's so open there. But I would, again, I could leave that to the planning board in working through the site plan in terms of screening and shrubbery and stuff like that.
Okay. I'd be open to that. I'd had to submit that when I did the original stuff.
Mhm.
So, and same with closing off that western entrance there where those stanchions are there. There's
Mhm.
put on that. I'd be open to whatever. I took down a couple dead trees last week.
Yeah.
There was one big dead maple there. So.
Carl, did you want to make any comments, or Amanda?
Mostly everything I was looking at and thinking about was already discussed. I'm not too crazy about the side building, but if it screens the back from the public and there's enough cameras that, no shenanigans go on in the back, it sounds good to me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'd be inclined to, keep the 35-foot setback on the side building, not have that come out, close to the road.
Okay.
Yeah, I definitely don't have, I mean, most of my comments have been covered by what everyone else has said, but I think that in this case, it's different than what we would normally do because, like everyone else said, there's not a lot of water. I do think that bringing that front building closer to the road actually enhances the character of the town. And like he said at the last meeting, the biggest demand that he's got is the climate control units, and in a way he's providing a service for the town by having the storage, but also, like you said, with the town police and working so cooperatively with them. So, I don't really have all that many objections to it.
Drew, I'm gonna, look for your thoughts on process here. I guess what I'm thinking, and Steve, because you don't usually sit in this, many of our applications are simpler and, not in the center of town and things like that. And those we often, I think unlike many towns, I, make a rough draft to bring to the meeting, and I usually have a feel for what people are thinking and try to present all sides so that nobody's left out and we scratch right through one. I did not do that tonight. So normally we're, basically passing a resolution because we've started writing something and we hash right through it and get it done. This time when I realized that the planning board was involved and that there are other, I don't know, a little more complicated, I didn't do that. And so process wise, I guess we could go ahead and it sounded like if we take a poll tonight that, yes, we can see our way to allow the expansion of the main building, and which would mean we would be giving you a variance for the coverage, for the impervious coverage, and we would be giving you a variance to that supplementary regulation of, I don't know, I would ask Drew to double check this, but it looks to me like 10, if I read your plan right, you were going to be 25 feet back. It requires 35 feet. So I would say that we're giving you, a 10-foot variance to the setback, and maybe we should make it 11 because we don't want you to be in the position where somebody came along and surveyed and found you were 6 inches over and you had to come back to us or move the building.
Right.
So if we, I would go ahead, I guess, and draft something, pass it to all of the members, and then refer you on to the planning board, and everything would be contingent upon, I guess, you reach an agreement with the planning board on the site plan review, and then you get all your sort of approvals at once. So Drew, I don't know. I don't think we've done this before, have we?
No, I don't think so. Not like this.
You think that sounds like a way forward?
Yeah, I mean, I think the planning board is gonna want to something in the way of a resolution, knowing that the variants are granted.
Yeah, okay, so I guess that I would go ahead and draft the resolution. I will circulate it via email to all the members. And I think what
We'll
it
get
means
back
is
to you then.
we would be more like a typical, we're very atypical. Again, I did this for 30 years all around the county. Nobody would have a public hearing and get their approval the same night. It's always a month later. So we're gonna, for this particular one, it wouldn't be until next month that there would be a formal resolution that was approved and passed on to the planning board.
And Steve, what did you have as far as plans? What were you going to wait till spring, or what was the?
Yeah, well, with the construction industry right now, materials are going to take some time regardless. So, I'm not in a giant rush, but I would like to move ahead when the weather gets good. I got to order stuff, and I worked with a guy that did the climate controlled building for me before. I was going to reach out to him and try and get him lined up, do the rest of the work. So they were from out in the Finger Lakes region, the guys that did it. So I had initially reached out to him and he said, yeah, he'd be interested. So I'm hoping I can get him lined up, but I doubt it's anything I could do, too quick.
Okay, just thanks.
So the all right, let's try to. It sounds like that we're okay with there were really I didn't hear any concerns about the climate controlled building. I don't know if anybody But yeah, you know, I wasn't real keen on the side building, and I would like to see that stay more towards the rear of the property. I don't know, is that, how do other people feel about that? I mean, again, I'm just one vote here, so you guys can,
Is the
you're,
front
you're free to outvote me.
of, on the side building or the strip building, we'll call it whatever, is that 35 feet back from the road? Or would that be the 25, same as the square addition?
I think the way, excuse me if I may on that, just looking at the plan that the engineer drew, that he drew up, the road kind of radiuses a little bit. So I think it's actually, looking at the lines that he drew, it's probably 40 feet back, if not even further. The way, the way we laid it out was just to make it the exact length of that climate control building to kind of match, if you will.
Okay.
Would it look better staggered back another 6 or 8 feet? It could, I guess, look a little better. You know, but there'll become a point too with that where will it be cost effective for me to go through all the layout and the concrete work and everything if it's, you know, it already is relatively small, but.
Steve, looking at that plan, we have it in front of us. It doesn't look like you couldn't move that building back 6 or 8 feet, the whole thing. It looks like you'd have to take off some of the length of it, because if you moved back, you wouldn't be able to drive through on the far east side of your lot to those units in the back.
Correct. It'll make it pretty tight. You know,
Yeah.
it's kind of a dead end back in that corner where that retaining wall is that we did.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would. You know, and again, that's where it's going to become it'll be cost prohibitive if I shrink it too much. I already, you know, for the sideline setback, we already made it narrow. It's only 9 foot wide, the building itself. You know, it'll be a one-sided shed roof. It'll match the one roof line of the building to the rear of it. You know, the same pitch, same height off the ground.
Right.
So it looks
Okay.
right. So it's high and dry, if you will.
No, it sounds all right.
Yeah.
All right, well, maybe we should get more formal here in terms of, so that Trish can have the record on it. I would say, so it sounds like that at least a few people are saying that you would go along with, I guess, what he shows on the plan for the side building. Is there a motion to go along with the plan for the side building?
I'll make a motion to go along with the plan for both of the structures. Or do you want to do them separately? Is that the
Well,
idea?
I do them separately because I'm going to go for the main building, but I'm going to vote against the side building. So, all right, I'll make the motion that the side building not be allowed. Is there a second to that? All right, I hear none. So then we go back to Mike's motion that we have a motion to approve both of the buildings.
Is there a
As
second for
this,
that?
with a, so that would be with the coverage and a setback of, let's say, rather than 25, let's say 24 feet, just to give you a little extra room.
Okay.
For the main building. All right, so does somebody make that motion?
So made.
All right, is there a second to that?
Second.
All right. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor will say aye.
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 Aye. Well, no, I was opposing both buildings, I guess. So, yeah, that's where I come in, that I'm just doing the main building. So I guess mine ends up a no on that particular one. And that I'm using that to formulate, again, a more formal approval resolution that we'd give a final approval to and pass and allow him to get to the planning board for the site plan review.
Okay.
So it sounds like, I think, Steve, you made out pretty good. I apologize that it probably takes a month for you to have the actual final document, and in that, we'll give that to the planning board. It sounded like that there was, everyone, including Steve, was in agreement that there could be, as an added benefit, the ability to have a walking space on the west boundary line.
Is that something that the planning board would propose, or your board would propose?
Well, I was thinking that we would propose it to the planning board, and they would be the ones who would work out the implementation. It might, I would think that it could just be like a 5-foot walking easement. And Steve, I give you a little reassurance of having done, again, all this trails homework and stuff. The state has recently, well, not that recent, but in the last 10 years or so, people always worry about liability. The state has pretty much taken that away. As long as you're not charging somebody to walk across your property, you're not liable.
All in, that'd be beneficial to me. So
Yep.
I certainly wouldn't have a problem with it. It's, people are walking through there anyway. So it's, if we can make it official, that's fine with me. If I can give something back to the community. I really appreciate everyone's time and your input and your consideration of the project. And I guess it's not a big project, but much appreciated.
Okay.
So would automatically tabled for the planning board then, or is that something I have to apply again for?
Drew will guide you through that.
Okay.
Drew, you're on mute.
Sorry about that. Yeah, you contact me, Steve. We got to get together a site plan application and whatnot, but it should be pretty simple and we should talk.
All right, thank you.
All right, is there any other issues or comments that people wanted to make? I guess that we should go ahead and close the public hearing. Is there a motion to do that?
Motion to close the public hearing.
All right, is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, any further discussion? If not, all in favor will say aye.
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 Any opposed? I don't hear any. And if there's no other business, I would say that we're done. I will in the next week, might be in the next couple of days, hopefully, pass around a more formal resolution about, remember, area variances are exempt from the seeker review. It's that type of thing. What a typical resolution is, and that will be sort of the final formal resolution with the any recommendations to the planning board for their site plan review. And I would add some language about that we try to incorporate the ability to walk down the west boundary.
Sounds good to me.
Okay. Thank you, everyone.
Great. Okay. Good night,
Trish, do
everyone.
we need to vote on the minutes?
We did. We
We
did, Kitty, right?
They're official the way we are, we're good?
Yeah, I guess so, because I didn't find my little thing, but
Okay,
it was
cool.
one word. It was one word. It couldn't have been that important.
Okay.
So we're meeting again next month to finalize the resolution.
Yes.
Okay. Gotcha.
If one question, if the resolution was done, let's say in the next week, could we not vote but via email and let that move along so that the planning board could see it before the month of March?
Yes, we should
That
try to
sounds like-
figure out a way to do that. I think that we would, this is the issue, is that even though it's Zoom, it's a public meeting, so we would have to give some notice to the public of essentially a special meeting. Trish, maybe you could talk to the people at the town hall and ask them how you go about that.
Well, I think, I mean, if it's enough time, we can put it in the paper. And then on the website and Facebook.
All right, well, what if we tentatively tried for 2 weeks from now? That should give me time to write it and for people to review it. And so that would be help me somebody, what?
The other way would be, the other way, Scott, would be if you wrote it and it was at the town hall, each person could go at their own leisure and vote on it for themselves, or do you think we'd all have to do this?
No, I think that the vote has to be done at a public meeting. Even though it's a Zoom meeting, it's still a public meeting. The public could join into the Zoom meeting.
Okay, whatever you got to do, you know
Yeah.
better.
So the date is Tuesday, February 9th at 7:30
Yes.
for the vote? Next.
Sounds good.
So Steve, hopefully we'll move you along even faster if we can.
Wonderful. Much
Okay.
appreciated. Thank you very much.
All right.
Thank you, guys. Okay. Good night, everyone. Night.
Yep.
Thanks.
Take
Good
care.
night.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Oh, do we have to vote to end the meeting? No.
Say it again.
Do we have to vote to end the meeting?
Oh, well,
We did.
yeah, all those in favor, push the leave button.
Good.
That
Thank you.
works.
Good night. Good night.
Good night.